Hello everyone, my name is TheMadScorpyon and welcome to another reset update for the week of April 1st. No joke, it started on April Fool's Day this week, and the same thing with the start is the start of Act 3 of Heresy. Fair warning, you will get a cutscene as soon as you select a character. It feels a little bit forced considering we're on the Dreadnought and then we're back in orbit and then we can go straight to the tower and we don't even talk to anyone else before that. But that is how it goes. Next, though, we do have, if you can tell by the man behind me that is currently behind this fire, Iron Banner is once again active, and I think it is in another simple single week. I'll cover more on that when I get to the section covering Crucible. But aside from that, there is, of course, the update that went alongside with Act 3, bunch of bug fixes, a few tweaks and other things. I may have a video today or tomorrow covering the full details. Aside from that, though, there is increased Crucible ranks to go along with the Iron Banner this week. And with that, that is most of the general things to be happening this week in total. However, let's get into the Nightfall. For the weekly featured Nightfall, we do have the Scarlet Keep Strike for this week, which I wouldn't say is a terrible one. I would definitely say it's not exactly an easy one. There are certainly some sections I would say give you some problems in small spaces, random champions. If you don't have an exactly refined loadout, a pretty good portion of this strike is going to be a little bit more difficult than the average strike. However, once you get to the top, that is kind of where the complications arise. As per the usual, when it comes to Destiny bosses, at 1/3 and 2/3 health down, usually they'll have invincible shields, as well as a variety of ads that spawn in wave after wave. That in this instance will be multiple champion unstoppable ogres with I think a few scattered barrier knights at the Grandmaster level, which I wouldn't say is impossible. I would also say it's not terribly difficult, but will it take some getting used to the patterns and maybe some randomness and some maybe, oh my god, that is a solo guardian moment status? Yes, I would say that it is one of those strikes that you will have some tense moments going through it. However, if you make it to the end, you do get rewarded with the Scintillation Linear Fusion Rifle, which once upon a time, of course, when this came out, people were clamoring about how good it can be, although in this day and age, it's a little bit got of a leg up just because of particle deconstruction featured on linear fusion rifles, not to mention the fact that it is strand and usually the new weapons that have decent damage perks and match the synergy of newer subclass damage types usually helps out a little bit in the end. It definitely has some nifty perks. I remember getting some initially once it first came out. However, I don't know, once again, if this is the top tier for linear fusion rifles nowadays. It is certainly one of the good options, though. For the Crucible side of things, once again, there is a Valor booster right now, so it is a good time to grind out ranks in addition to the already present Iron Banner. Now, in terms of Iron Banner modes, there is two current available modes, and that is Iron Banner Control as well as Tribute, which I believe is basically just Iron Banner Supremacy, which is weird that they followed this immediately after having 3 weeks of Event Supremacy already. So if you were really itching to play something like Supremacy, guess what? You have another week to go through it. Aside from that, there is a few other rounds, including ones that I don't remember existing. The first being Checkmate Control for the labs, which I imagine, I forget what Checkmate means precisely, but I know it's tuned damage scenarios in terms of sandbox. But then there is also the usual 3v3 of competitive, as well as Dominion, which whatever mode that is, that exists. But I believe if you're itching from 6v6, you'll either have to go into Labs or Iron Banner as a total. And once again, as a reminder, the trials will be disabled this weekend as Iron Banner is currently active. On to the weekly features. Starting off with our exotic mission, it is time for Starcrossed, which is where you earn the Wish Keeper Strand exotic bow, as well as any of the other weapons from Season of the Wish associated in case you missed out on any of those red borders from the associate season. I wouldn't say there's anything exactly stellar worth anything. If you wanted the old Season of Undying reprised weapons that are present, there is some there with a nifty origin trait, but aside from that, I don't know if precisely there was anything that could shake up the sandbox so much as every other seasonal just variety of weapons. Into the dungeons, we do have Vowed Disciple wait, that's not a dungeon. My list is wrong, hang on. After double checking, we do have Vesper's Host and Duality, which both of these are in a unique state of current, I would say, just because there is some nifty weaponry that you can get in terms of Duality, some red borders, as well as a decent artifice farm. And Vesper's being the fairly recent dungeon that it is, it does have the icebreaker that can be infinitely farmed after, in case you're hunting that. Not to mention, with both of these respective dungeons, it is currently the only time nowadays that you can access the master mode, like I said, for Artifice Armor, Catalyst for either respected weapon, just a variety of things that only are available from the master mode. And then in our raid scene, in a similar state, we have the Last Wish and the Vow of Disciple. Namely Last Wish because it does have red borders it can of course farm for, back refresh during Season of the Deep. And it does have an exotic that if you somehow still don't have it, can be infinitely farmed for. You can kill Riven as many times as you need to, and then open the chest from the Queen's Walk and hopefully get 1000 voices. Not to mention as well, all challenges are active, so in case you wanted to boost the chance to actually earn that, complete any of the challenge modes in Last Wish and you get a boosted drop chance for 1000 voices. The same can be said for Vow of the Disciple. All challenges are active per the featured. It does have a master mode. You can earn not only intellect focused armor, but at the same time you can get access to relics, I'm just messing up all my words. Adept weaponry for a limited time. Not to mention, like I said, challenges are active to boost the drop chance of Collective Obligation, which at this point is also a fairly decent raid weapon, but at the same time, it's not exactly something I would strive for. If you're literally looking to make a void build, I would say it is perfect timing, but otherwise, I would say it can certainly be left behind. Per the usual, at the same time though, every encounter is infinitely farmable, and this is the first that does have red borders added to its list for Vow of the Disciple. To wrap up our featured weekly bits, we do have for raids and challenges, Salvation's Edge is offering intellect-focused armor out of its master mode, and the specific challenge for Salvations is the Scenic Route challenge. Then going from top to bottom, we do have for Crota's Edge, still no active challenge unless it's featured for whatever reason. The Root of Nightmares is the Crossfire, aka Second Encounter challenge. King's Fall is Gaze Amaze, which is Golgoroth challenge. Vow of Disciple is featured, so that is also infinitely farmable, all challenges active. Vault of Glass is Strangers in Time, which is the Gatekeeper challenge. The Deepstone Crypt is Red Rover, which is the first encounter challenge. Garden of Salvation is a Link to the Chain, which I forget which one that is, and the Last Wish, once again being featured, means that every single challenge is active and infinitely farmable. Now into our seasonal challenges for the week. For week 9, at the start, we have, of course, the usual story bit for completing Act 3, Part 1 of Crossed Blades. Following up, we have Heresy Reprisal defeats for defeating combatants anywhere in the system with Reprisal weapons, bonus progress, and Heresy activities. They include the weapons like the Cold Denial, False Promises, Whispering Slap, and Temptation's Hook, as well as the Hollowed Words. Basically, if you were playing during that time, any weapon from Season of Arrivals that also returned with this season. Next is Heretical Arsenal again. This gives you the sidearm with the bonus origin trait. Defeating combatants with sidearm, final blows, bonus progress once again in episode Heresy activities, or defeating guardians. Then the Court of Blades Orbs, which is creating Orbs of Power in Court of Blades. Bonus progress for spending stolen runes on the following buffs, being Paracausal Bandolier and Rally buff. Then there is Small Arms Soulfire, which is defeating targets with submachine guns or sidearms. I just recommend doing sidearms to hit both. Once again, additional progress in Heresy activities or killing guardians. An enhanced Court of Blades. Completed the Court of Blades activity with runic enhancement equipped worth at least 7 rune power. Higher difficulties grant additional progress. Next is Ritual Ornament for acquiring any Ritual Ornament for the Seasonal Ritual Weapon, which is basically play any of the main core activities enough until you reset your ranks twice. The Void Armaments for defeating targets in any ritual activity with Void Weapon Final Blows, bonus progress for defeating them with Void Power weapons. And lastly, Calibrate Close Range of calibrating close range weapons, sidearms, submachine guns, shotguns, glaives, and swords. You can knock out 4 of these challenges if you just pick a Void sidearm easily. And with that, it is time to get into the Eververse section. Now, once again, as the Guardian Games have ended, that whole seasonal tab, or that seasonal event tab, has once again left us, and we're back to a more regular store. On the front page of Bright Dust options, we have Cerulean Divide, which I believe is one from the old vanilla days. A nice carbon fiber green with some light bits of blue, but I think Metropolitan Shift, I think it was. Or actually, no, this is the exact shade I'm thinking of. It got lighter last time I checked. And then we also have Ultra Clean, that was from last season. That with this armor doesn't look so clean now that I look at it. I expected this to be much more monochromatic and carbon fiber, but there's a lot more brown than I expected, and it's a leather brown to be honest. Then we also have the Siva entrance and Tradesman effect from Season of the Worthy, which is to say, basically busting out of a pile of Siva. When Siva, Bungie, please. Next is the Rotor engine, which is from this current season in terms of recentness, which is basically a Sparrow if you wanted to look very Renaissance technology, which I appreciate the amount of moving parts, but man, it's not that attractive when you actually look at it. Next is the Rimshot emote, which this does come with the sound in case you wish to do it or just to be the pun guy on your team. So if you wanted to actively taunt people in game, you can certainly do it with that emote. Next is the Oiled Gunmetal shader, which is to say it looks like oil and it's straight black. So if you wanted to have that shiny slick sheen of oil on your Guardian, this is the choice for you. Next is Nectar Dynamo, which is one that I always challenge people to use on their weapons, but also try to see if people can make it work with their armor, because otherwise it is just bright and loud. Next is, if I can find the escape button, the Irradiant Carite, which is to say one that is Prism the Eyesore. There is no good way to put it. It pretty much makes anything look like this. A bright blue, pink, shattered prism look, so otherwise bright. Then there is Princely Presence from Season of the Wish, which is simply enough a chrome look with cyan metallic. There is no other good way to put it. It is pretty much the entirety of the whole thing. Next is the Victory Jam emote, which is new to this season, which you would be mistaken if you thought it was exclusive to Guardian games, but essentially just you dancing after a touchdown, nothing else to say. The Stepped in It is another emote from also this season, which is you in guess stepping in something, touching it, and realizing it's gross. Then another from this season, the Lumen Shell, which is a unique little light shell. I don't know if it's supposed to be a reference from something immediately, but it does certainly look like a unique ghost shell. Next is, I think, the companion to it, the Diamagnetic Hover, which is a Sparrow or ghost shit. All of the above. None of the above. Man, I'm just struggling with the talking today. The jump ship to equip to match that ghost shell. It's pretty sleek in the idea. I wonder how its shaders. Well, okay, there we go. The glows do change and shift with different, shaders. So that is a good looking ship in the end of the day. And next is the Gatecrasher, also from this season, which is to say another Revenant look, I think. Not Revenant, Splicer look specifically, but who's to say? It just looks graffiti. And probably the main ticket item for some people, the Deepstone Crypt rendition of the Dead Man's Tale. Certainly looks good in terms of Dead Man's Tale, but I still think base Dead Man's kind of looks the best, kind of. If I wanted this, I would have, or if I wanted to look at something Deepstone Crypt, I'd just use Succession or that one Scout Rifle that I'm forgetting the name of, Trustee. But then lastly, as always, the worst of the list, the Ghost Projection that you inevitably ignore, unless for some reason you really, really like this. And with that, that is the end of the reset update for this week. Of course, once again, there is an update that I will make a separate video on eventually, and I will be covering the story bits of this week in case you wanted to catch on that. But aside from that, that is all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed, or at least are kept up to date, and I will see you in the next video.